The workers' boots squelched in the oily sand as they rushed to the scene. They all had odd expressions and couldn't hold back their gasps as they met Funk at the scene. He felt dazed, wondering if any of this was real. Were his eyes deceiving him? He would never have thought he would find something like that crawling out from the rock, but he still had no idea what it was. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. It was just another day at work for miner Sean Funk. With 12 years of experience working as a construction worker and heavy machine operator, Funk had seen his share of buried objects. From useless trash to treasured valuables, Funk thought he had seen it all. Little did he know he was just about to witness the most bizarre and incredible event of his entire career. Making his way to the backhoe and Millennium Mine in Alberta, Canada. Funk prepared for another full day of excavating the earth. Funk loved his job. He was obsessed with natural anomalies and secretly hoped he'd find one someday. If only he knew today was his lucky day. For hours, Funk manned his excavator as usual. He was creating a huge dent in the land full of sand and oil, laced with bitumen. With every earth he lifted, he traveled back in time. He imagined how cool it would be if he actually found something. He remembers the news segment where a miner found an ancient egg buried beneath dirt and stone. He looked at his pit of wet sand and stone and laughed. Nothing but sand, oil, and stone, he thinks. He continued to dig, but just as he impacted to earth to swallow another piece of ancient soil, he heard a loud crack. He hit something hard. He released the chunks of earth from his excavator and got out to have a look at what fell out. He noticed something strange about the pieces of rock, so he carried them on the back of his truck to investigate. He went back to his site and peered into the large hole he had dug in the ground. What he saw sent his heart pounding. Noticing the widening crack, he grabbed a shovel and started to dig. He didn't have time to think. He acted on pure instinct. His gut told him to protect this. It was his sole mission. As he stood behind the large boulder, doing what he could, he heard a noise. It was back up. They arrived in force. Bringing a large crane and pillars, they prepared to hoist the large rock into the air. They dug beneath the rock and placed wooden planks to hold it steady. Funk helped, watching nervously as they prepared for takeoff. Once the team of construction workers successfully airlifted the huge rock out from the crumbling surface, Funk felt himself relax. But it wasn't over yet. Just as the crane set the rock back down to the ground, a sharp sound rattled through the atmosphere. The rock split in half, revealing exactly what Funk thought he had seen. A team from the Royal Tyrrell Museum of Paleontology rushed to the scene. Funk watched as their eyes popped in shock and amazement as they realized what they were called for. Funk explained everything, and they spent hours carefully digging through the shattered bits of rock, piecing together something you could only see to believe. What was it? Incredibly, Funk discovered a real-life fossilized dinosaur that had been petrified from its snout to its hips. This meant it was miraculously well-preserved since its death 112 million years ago. Not only did it have teeth and bones, but also its skin and remnants of its intestines. A phenomenon as rare as winning the lottery. How? Scientists speculate that the unlucky dinosaur died and ended up being swept into the river by a big flood. It was kept afloat by gases in its body, which washed its belly-up carcass far out to sea. After a week or so, the carcass burst and sank back into the ocean floor. Minerals seeped into the skin and armor and supported its back, immortalizing its form as tons of rock piled on top of it. Researchers from the museum and all over the world worked tirelessly for 6 years to test, preserve, and prepare this dinosaur's remains while piecing together his unbelievable story. Scientists concluded that this dinosaur was a four-legged herbivore covered in armor-plated skin and spikes with a long tail. It was a brand new discovery of species called a nodosaur. In its petrified state, the nodosaur weighed about 2,500 pounds, which gives scientists a reasonable idea of how much it weighed when it was alive. They estimate that the nodosaur weighed in at around 3,000 pounds. This means that the nodosaur would have been a fairly solitary creature when it roamed the land 100 million years ago. The miracle of the nodosaur's perfectly preserved remains still baffles scientists, especially after its rough and long journey to its final resting place. The nodosaur is now on display at the Royal Tyrrell Museum, and scientists are still studying its remains as they continue to learn more about the prehistoric era of dinosaurs. As for miner Sean Funk, he gets to say that he played the leading role in one of the most significant dinosaur discoveries in the world at work, and scientists were still not done with this find. In early 2019, scientists were still studying the nodosaur and its scans to continue to learn about dinosaurs in general, as nothing like this had ever been found before. However, it wasn't the first time someone had stumbled upon something ancient and monumental. Someone made a discovery in their own backyard that rivaled that of the nodosaur. The sound of police sirens pierces the air while hundreds of people stand and gathered around a riverbank in a local farmer's backyard. Right before their eyes is something that at first sight cannot be explained. Something that was discovered so unexpectedly by a farmer on a simple stroll in his backyard. For that farmer, Jose, this day started out as just an ordinary day. With the sun shining down on his new home in Buenos Aires, farmer Jose Antonio Nievas decided to go for a Christmas Day walk in his backyard with his dog. He had yet to explore the acres of land included with the farm, including the riverbank and streams. And so, he opened the back door and set off. Little did Jose know he was about to make history. Walking alongside the riverbank with his dog beside him, Jose suddenly noticed something strange in the muddy water. Wedged in the bank, it looked like a huge, giant, black egg. Jose stopped in his tracks. What exactly was it? As Jose got closer to the strange object, he noticed that it was completely covered in mud. He decided to attempt to dig it out, and as he did, the object's true size slowly revealed itself. Measuring 3 feet wide, it was too big to be any kind of egg. So what exactly was it? Wiping the sweat from his forehead, Jose had been digging at this object for 15 minutes. Ringing up his wife for help, Jose told her he had found a massive, black-colored egg that looked like it had come from a dinosaur. Lost for words, his wife replied with a laugh, admitting she didn't believe him, thinking it was a joke. But, as they soon discovered, this was not a joke. Arriving at the riverbank, Jose's wife was lost for words at the sight before her eyes. Eager to find out more, she assisted Jose in trying to dig the mystifying object out of the ground while trying not to damage it. However, despite all their effort, the couple looked at each other and sighed. They knew they needed backup. As Jose dialed 911, he hoped they would believe him when he told them about his backyard discovery. But then again, things like this don't happen in a small town like Carlos Spagazzini. Speaking to the police, at first, they thought Jose was joking, that the call was just another prank call from some bored teenagers. But this was no prank call. Jose persuaded the police to come and see the object, and they agreed. As they arrived, hundreds of local residents gathered around the riverbank. As the residents were snapping pictures, eager to get a closer look at this out-of-this-world object, Jose's dog started to explore the area. Little did Jose know, his dog was about to help the investigation further. As the curious dog sniffed around, his tail wagging in the air, He started to bark and growl near where the big and bizarre object was found. What had Jose's canine companion found? They knew they needed to take further action and bring in the experts. With tensions high and questions unanswered, the police decided to call in 2 local archaeologists to hopefully help explain the strange discovery. When the 2 archaeologists arrived, they estimated that this object was, in fact, a relic from ancient times. Bursting with excitement, they knew this was going to be a day to remember. And oh, how they were right. The 2 archaeologists started to remove the mud and help dig in the object out of the riverbank. As they attempted to dig further, they suddenly realized just how heavy and huge this strange object was. Carefully, they loaded it onto the transport to take back to the lab. Little did they know they were about to find out some incredible answers. At the lab, the archaeologists ran numerous tests on the object, examining the strange shell-like structure. It turned out that this strange object was actually a kind of shell, or armor, of the prehistoric beast, the glyptodon. As word spread about the discovery, experts expressed their suspicions, claiming it had been a staged hoax. Many scientists admitted they couldn't come up with reasonable and concrete answers, questioning how the shell could have been preserved in such good condition and in an upright position. But this discovery was everything but a hoax. According to researchers, more than 10,000 years ago, South America was full of glyptodons. These mammals resembled a Volkswagen Beetle and weighed pretty much the same too. While examining the shell, scientists noticed that there was a different hole for where the head would go, and vice versa for the tail. Scientists claimed that the hole didn't look like it was the cause of a fight, meaning there would be only one more cause: the possibility that this damage occurred recently. The giant fossil that was found on the farm was seemingly huge in size, measuring around 3 feet. However, paleontologists have estimated that the shell belonged to a juvenile glyptodon. Fully mature members of the species can measure up to 11 feet. Still, to this day, Jose can't believe what he unexpectedly came across when on a simple stroll in his backyard.